So, in this episode of the Intentional Mom podcast, we're talking about something a little bit different from what I normally talk about. We're actually going to be talking about marriage. And I am not a marriage expert, but I have been married for almost 30 years. That's 3 decades. That's a long time. And so I have figured out this one thing that has fixed my marriage. So I've been married for almost 29 years and we've raised 3 adult children and we have 6 more that we're still in the thick of parenting. And so we're in it, right? We're in it right now. We're deep in it. And we're also polar opposites. We've experienced so many different things in life, some good, some not so good. But this one thing is something that I'm so excited to share with you because it can change your marriage just like it changed mine. So, if you are married or if you are in a relationship with a human, this episode, any kind of relationship, coworkers, friends, extended family, this one thing is going to speak to that relationship as well. If you are in a relationship with any person, meaning if you don't live in a bubble, this is going to be an episode that you will be able to take a huge takeaway from. Make sure you stick around and listen. Well, hey there, I am Jennifer Roskamp, a certified life coach and homeschool mom of 9 who is passionate about helping women just like you embrace the here and now while also being focused on creating the life you actually want. In reality, it's not about thinking life will get so much better or so much easier when you fill in the blank. Let's work on creating a life you love now. So let's dive in and get started on redefining Supermom to be someone who is present, intentional, and content rather than perfect in our homes, in our lives, and in our own skin. Let's get started. This is the Intentional Mom Podcast. So, my husband and I have been married. It'll be 29 years this fall. We've raised, again, our 3 adult children, and we have 6 more who still live at home. We really are polar opposites, which is sometimes nice and sometimes not so nice. We've lost babies, we've lost jobs, and clearly our minds since we have 9 kids. Just kidding, although not really. This does add a lot to our opportunities to disagree with one another and of course, just experience stress and heartbreak and all the things. We've been in marriage counseling at times throughout our marriage, which I'm a big fan of. But even more than what we've gained from marriage counseling is this one thing that I'm going to share with you today. No matter what shape your marriage is in, this could help you too. If you're not married, again, don't skip past this episode. What you'll learn here is something that you can 100% use in a relationship you are in with any kind of person, kids, coworkers, friends, family members. This is going to be something that you can benefit from. So make sure you stick around and make sure you save this one. And of course, share it with anyone you know who is in any kind of relationship. They will thank you. So first, here are a few disclaimers. I am not a marriage counselor. I am not a therapist. I am not a relationship expert. But I am a certified life coach. And through that, I know that relationships are a big part of the reality that you experience every day. Therefore, relationships are something you can and should be working on if you want to experience more joy, more contentment, more happiness, etc. Next disclaimer, not all marriages are safe ones. If you question your safety or the safety of your kids, your situation is likely beyond the scope of what you will hear here, but you will still benefit from hearing this episode, even in these kinds of cases. The next disclaimer is that changing this one thing isn't painting rainbows and sunshine over hard situations, gut-wrenching circumstances, or real problems or challenges that will still need to be addressed. But as a life coach, I know that in 100% of relationships, there is something you can change about any relationship 100% of the time. And that's what we're talking about here today. So, what is this one thing that you can change 100% of the time? It's you. Does this mean that the other person can't or shouldn't change themselves? Nope. But one of the things I remind coaching clients of all the time is that you can't change another person, even if they really need to change themselves. You cannot change another person. which alone is a freeing thought. Since you can't change them, don't waste any more of your time, effort, emotions into trying. Just put those things where they matter. So, are you ready to hear the one thing that changed my marriage? Here it is. I made a decision to change my thoughts. All right, hang on, stick with me, right? This isn't woo woo. Stick with me, okay? I'm very practical. If you've ever listened to this into this podcast or heard me coach or talk or speak or anything, you know I'm 100% practical. But remember what I shared in the disclaimers a minute ago. Let me explain. I promise there is a lot of meat here and a new opportunity for you as well. You know how there are those married people, those ones who you look at them and you look at the way that he treats her, and you look at the communication that they have and you say, "Wow, they never fight," right? And you look at their marriage and you think, "Wow, I want to have a marriage like that. I wish I could have a marriage like that." I know these people too. If you were to put longtime married couples into a room and ask them for their secrets to success, you would likely hear all kinds of different things. You'd, I'm sure, hear some overlap as well, right? You'd hear some of those cornerstones like good communication, listening to the other person, making sure we work through things before we go to bed at night, right? You'd hear these common things, but you'd hear a lot of different pieces of advice, a lot of different ways that people attribute certain things they've done or not done to the success of their long-term marriage. And those are all going to be true. And those are all going to be things that you could try. But for so long, I looked at these people and I thought, I want that, but that will never be me. And that would never be possible for me because of that or the other thing. Those are where my thoughts were. But through the growth that has happened in my own life, through really the world of life coaching, which, by the way, I believe that everyone should work with a life coach because you have one life and you are in control of that one life. And this is exactly what a life coach does. We help you take control of your life, recognizing what you can't control, yes, but also helping you manage those hard things, helping you manage what life throws your way through learning how you perceive them, essentially how you manage yourself. That's what a life coach is here for. Anyhow, so back to these people that you admire. One day I had a revelation. How you feel about your spouse, how you feel about your marriage is 100% your choice. You always control your feelings and emotions. But you do that by controlling your thoughts. Your thoughts always control your feelings and emotions. Every single thing that you experience, every single thing that happens to you, it's just a thing. It's just an experience. You interpret and assign meaning and value to everything, positive or negative. You decide that. Bringing this back to marriage, deciding in knowing that I decided to create the marriage I wanted to create in my mind. No, I don't have a make-believe marriage. And no, I don't spend my time in a made up world where everything is all amazing. And yes, my husband and I still have plenty of experiences that make me anything but happy and and as though I feel in love with my spouse. But I do get to decide how I think and feel about all of those things. And so do you. The decision I made is that I wanted to have, quote, that kind of marriage, unquote. And it's an ongoing choice day in and day out. In reality, very little about my marriage itself has changed. But half of the people in my marriage, since there are only two of us, has changed. And not only does that mean that how I experience and feel about my marriage has changed, since of course I control how I feel based on my own thoughts, it changes the person who shows up in my marriage. It changes me and how I show up in my marriage, which changes the things I do or don't do in my marriage. In reality, you can be unhappy in your marriage. You can say whatever you want, but you don't know the way. You might find yourself in this situation. Okay, yeah, I want to have a happy marriage. But you might be saying, but you don't know the way my husband treats me. You don't know how he ignores me. You don't know how he ignores my responsibility or does this, that, or the other thing. You fill in the blank. You're right. I don't know those things. But like me, you get to decide how his actions or lack of actions make you feel. How you feel is always your choice. You don't have to feel neglected. You don't have to feel taken advantage of or taken for granted. You don't have to feel like you are being treated unfairly in your marriage. Whatever you're currently deciding, whatever it is that you are currently deciding your husband's behavior is making you feel is up to you. Lean in close. If you've been multitasking and you've been maybe frustrated by some of the things I have to say because I'm challenging you, that's what a good life coach does, by the way. Hear me when I say this. Your husband's behavior is his choice. I'm going to repeat that. Your husband's behavior is his choice. You do not have to take responsibility for that. You do not have to take ownership for that. It is his choice. How you feel as a result is your choice. How you feel as a result is your choice. So let me put that together. Your husband's behavior is his choice. How you feel about that behavior as a result is your choice. So like me, you're faced with the same question. How do you want to feel about your marriage? Choose what you want, my friend. Your whole world could change when you start choosing the feelings you want to have. What kind of marriage do you want? At the end of the day, when I ask people this question, the most common answer, hands down, again, in almost any situation, will be one that says, I want a marriage that makes me feel loved. I want a marriage that makes me feel honored, respected, cherished. I want to feel happy. I want to feel satisfied. These are the kinds of answers that I will hear 100% of the time. But here's the thing. Here's the secret. Those things don't have to wait until your husband behaves in a certain way. Why make your quality of life dependent on another person? You have no control over that other person. It's your life. You decide on the quality. You decide what your life is based on how you choose to feel about it, even the hard, messy parts. The hard, messy parts are still going to be there. Yes. I wish that there were a magic wand to make all of those things better. I wish there were a magic wand where there wouldn't be misunderstandings and miscommunications and assumptions. These are all things that are so woven throughout marriage and any relationship. But you decide how you want to feel about your marriage. It's your life. You decide on the quality. This has been a deep conversation, and this is a deep conversation for a podcast episode, but I hope it gets you thinking. Again, this is a simple concept to understand. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to embrace. It's not easy to accept. You know what? If marriage was easy, more people would be married. But when done right, when marriage is done right, and what I'm talking to you about here today is done right, you've got a 100% likelihood of feeling happier in your marriage and happier in your life. What else do you know out there that is a 100% guarantee? Now, again, you've got to do the work. Just listening to this episode isn't going to magically fix it. And again, this episode likely has challenged you and frustrated you. You're probably going to have to listen to this podcast episode again. Make sure you save it, by the way. Make sure you can find it. Make sure you download it. Put it on replay. Put it on repeat on those hard days. I have to do the same thing. There are days that are so challenging that I have to constantly decide the thoughts and feelings that I want. But it's always a choice. And I am always a better and happier person. And I always experience a better quality of life when I'm choosing the things I actually want to choose. When I am plugged in, when I am aware, when I am, again, focused on what I can do, and when I am not getting tripped up by what I can't. Because I could be tripped up by the things my husband does or doesn't do every single day. I could be frustrated and I could say, this is never going to get better until he ... But what I know is, and what I'm telling you is, you can decide it is better because that's what you decide. You choose better or you choose worse. It's not dependent on another person. What you think and feel and experience is not dependent on another person. I hope that makes you feel empowered. Could it look different? Could it be better? Could it be easier if the person you're married to did certain things differently? Of course. But you know what? He'd say the same thing about you. Humans are complex people, and we are all selfish by nature. We are all selfish by nature. We all want to know what's in it for me. That's how we approach everything. Your brain is constantly calculating the cost of different things. Your brain is constantly assessing what external stimuli, what other people are or aren't doing, what other people are or aren't saying. But you can take a much more active role rather than a passive one to make sure that the things your brain is telling you are the things that you accept or reject. And if your brain tries to get on that track that it's been on for a while and telling you all of the reasons that he fails, all of the reasons that your marriage is miserable, all of the reasons that you are entitled to feel miserable or taken advantage of, those could all be very, very true. I'm not here to say that there's no truth in the thoughts that you're having. But I am here to say that you get to decide whether those are the thoughts that are going to be rolling around in your mind. And if those thoughts are not creating the quality of marriage you want, well, that's something you can fix. So again, this has been a deep thing to talk about. And again, it's simple to understand, but it's not easy to do. But you get to decide what you want. Then when you make the decision, if you really say here as a result of listening to this episode, the first time, the 10th time, whatever it is, if you say, want that kind of marriage, well, then you just do the work we've laid out here. You have complete control over the work you do on yourself. And it doesn't have to depend on what anyone else does. You're the driver. This is one of our mantras in my coaching community. What this means is we talk about the backseat. We talk about how really your life is going along every single day, right? Every single day. There are 60 seconds in a minute, and there are 60 minutes in an hour, and there are 24 hours in a day, and there are 7 days in a week, right? And on it goes. These things are passing by. You can't stop them. You can't slow them down. You can't make them go faster. They happen without any of your control. And so you are experiencing your life 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year at a time. Whether or not, you have no control over that either. And so your life is happening, and a lot of people, without realizing it, are living their life from the back seat where life happens to them. They aren't taking an active role. They aren't taking ownership of what they can take ownership of, which is themselves. And so we talk about how important it is to get out of the backseat of your life, where life happens to you and you're along for the ride and you think things like, this is the best it's going to get. This is the way it is. This is what I have to accept. This is the hand I've been dealt. Those things are all things that you could park your thoughts on from the backseat. And you have little to no say-so over where you go and what life looks like from the backseat. But you could also choose to climb into the driver's seat. And we do that by exactly what we talked about here today. It's deciding about yourself. It is deciding what you're going to think and how you're going to feel about that and what those feelings are going to cause you to do as a result. And therefore, the circumstances and the results that you start living out and experiencing every day. That's what it is to be in the driver's seat. It's you taking control of your thoughts. It's you taking control of where you ultimately go every day and what you experience every day by deciding, what is it you want? What is it I'm going to think? What is it I want to think? What is it I want to think in my marriage, like we talked about today? So where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the driver's seat or do you want to stay in the back seat? Life is you have a much better view from the driver's seat. And you have a much greater likelihood of ending up where you actually want to go. That marriage that you look at those couples and you say, I want that marriage. You can choose that, but it's done from the driver's seat, not from the back seat. Thanks for listening today. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to maybe challenge you and frustrate you. And if you're a little mad at me because maybe I've challenged you, and that's okay. I'm here to share what I know to be true in my life. This is my experience. I have 100% experienced the transformation that has come in my marriage as a result of this one thing. I've shared it with you. It's yours for the taking. You get to decide what to do with it, my friend. Make it a great day until we talk again. Bye-bye. Whoa, man. That was a lot, right? Deep, deep. Make sure that, again, you have saved this episode. You have downloaded this episode. When we hear things like that, it's hard to live them out, right? When things happen, you just want to go back to your old way of doing things. You want to go back to being mad and waiting for him to act better or do things different or do what you ask or be more aware of you or be more thoughtful of you. But that's, again, 100% focused on what he does or doesn't do. What we talked about today is 100% something that you can control. So make sure you have access to this podcast. Make sure you share it with others. Do you have a friend who's struggling in her marriage? Send her this. Tell her, man, this is going to be hard. This is going to hit you at places. But if you want things to be different, this is a great one to listen to. Make sure that you share it. So in the next episode of the Intentional Mom podcast, we've got our Ask a Life Coach episode, and we're going to be talking about one of the things that I get asked about a lot. One of the things that people feel like they want help with. We're going to be talking about motivation. So make sure you tune in for that one. We'll talk then.